Another edition with Issues with Jide. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, BOBRISKY scandal. VeryDarkMan exposes massive corruption in prisons, EFCC. In the course of the program, we take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your comments in the comment section, or your questions in the comment section, or even your comments. It's important to mention that we can only read comments with human names and the ones based on the subject matter. I have joining me via Zoom, the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Good to see you, BKO. Right, BKO.
Thank you for inviting us.
Right. Let's get right into the matter. Following the House of Representatives resolution to investigate allegations of bribery against the EFCC, the joint committees of the House has extended an invitation to the chairman of the commission, Ola Olukoede. This is coming after the Nigerian Bar Association urged the AGF, Lateef Fagbemi, and the Office of the NSA to conduct an independent investigation into allegations made by a blogger known as VeryDarkMan that some officers of the EFCC collected 15 million naira from BOBRISKY to dismiss money laundering charges against him. BKO, what has been your reading of this bribery scandal?
Honestly, I've been very, very disappointed that this has happened. I wanted BOBRISKY to pay for the crime he committed against our nation. I wanted BOBRISKY that will come out of jail evidently sober and evidently regretful of his actions. But on the day that he was released from prison, or that he was supposed to have been released from the correctional center, what do they call prisons now? He didn't look like someone who had been to prison. So I kept asking myself, did BOBRISKY have a resident makeup artist working with him when he was in prison? Did he also hire a resident beautician to help him work on his nails? Because he clearly was sporting long nails like a fashionable woman. And this is a person that God created as a man. Whether he likes it or not, he cannot turn himself to a woman, no matter what he does. Our world has not reached that stage. In spite of all the inventions that science has seen, our world has not reached that stage when an individual can do a genital transplant, in which case a man cannot be rueful or regretful of the fact that he has male genitalia and then decide that, oh, I'm going to swap this male genitalia for that of a woman. No. So no matter what Bob Reckless thinks of himself, he will never be able to turn himself to a woman. He came out of jail in inverted commas, looking very fresh, not looking like somebody who went to jail at all. We've seen bigger people than him, richer people than him go to jail, and we felt that some things had changed about them. But in the case of BOBRISKY, he was looking very much like the pretended woman that is always being full makeup in place, hair adornments in place, long nails, long false nails in place. And I kept asking questions. How, to what extent do they indulge this guy in prison that he could come out of prison in the way that he looked after his release? Now we are seeing clearly how much corruption has penetrated virtually every facet of our national life. And if corruption is so endemic in the Nigerian prisons, I'm sorry, I will have to call them prisons. I'm so used to calling them prisons. If corruption is so endemic in the Nigerian prisons, if corruption is so endemic in the EFCC, what is our hope as a country? Because if the courts pronounce people guilty and the court says they should be kept in prison, and prison officials disobey the courts and take those people to places where they can enjoy a life of luxury and pleasure, then we are doomed. We are in trouble. The stench of monumental corruption that has come out of this BOBRISKY scandal also shows in bold relief the power of social media. Somebody called Martins Vincent Otse, alias VeryDarkMan or Very Dark Black Man. Somebody called him an investigative journalist. And I said, no. Another one said, oh, VDM is now the one teaching investigative journalists how to do their work. Of course, this is arrant nonsense. It's not teaching us how to do our work. But we must admit that the young man has courage. And this is just, what has happened is not a piece of investigative journalism. It's a case of somebody who felt cheated by BOBRISKY. Because BOBRISKY was looking for money up and down, like the Fawaraja that he is, or looking for money up and down to be able to pay for the indulgences that he craved when he's supposed to be in prison. And at the end of the day, somebody loaned him money that he apparently was not prepared to pay. There are many of them, many big people who would take a loan, even from banks, and refuse to pay. Many of Nigeria's billionaires today are overdraft billionaires. They took money from the banks, then they would rather watch those banks go down than pay their debts. So Bobrisky was reluctant to pay, and that fellow got in touch with VeryDarkMan. He trusted VeryDarkMan for his honesty, for his integrity. He knew that VeryDarkMan would put that audio clip, the conversation that they had, on one of his social media platforms. And that was what VeryDarkMan did. And it has caused all of the hullabaloo that is going on now. So that is not the result of investigative journalism. It's just a case of somebody slipping an audio clip into his hands, helping him, trying to get him to pressure Bobrisky to pay. And if Bobrisky will not pay, then the scandal will eventually embarrass him in ample quantities. That's what we have seen. But there's a difference between what has happened and investigative journalism in the real sense of the word. But I'm not taking anything away from VDM. I think he's a young man with courage and he loves the Nigerian people. He likes to fight for the ordinary people. We saw him when he went to Maiduguri. You know, we cannot bear to see people suffer, and he tries to do his best to help people who are suffering. So kudos to Martin's Vincent Osek, alias Very Dark Black Man or VeryDarkMan. You know, so there is a need for us to use this scandal to take a good look at the Nigerian prison service or the Nigerian Correctional Service. There is also a pressing need to overhaul the EFCC so that we can send packing the blacklegs who already are notorious for compromising corruption cases. These are the people who go and tell those that the agency intends to put on trial that, look, we are coming for you. If you do not pay so amount of money so that we can wipe your slate clean, then you will be in trouble. You will face. So there are people there who continue to blackmail, especially the politically exposed persons, and they do deals with these politically exposed persons so that they will not be called out for their corrupt deeds.
That's right.
Now you will see, Brian, why sometimes Nigerian security agencies struggle for custody of suspects. At least we saw what happened with Emefiele, when the DSS and the prison service fought one another. Operatives of the DSS and the prison service fought one another, exchanged blows over the custody of Emefiele. He has to be in my custody. No, he cannot be in your custody. In public, they disgraced one another in public before the DSS overpowered them and took Emefiele away. The same Emefiele was eventually handed over to the EFCC based on presidential directive. So he's moved from even the EFCC, the DSS to the EFCC. If not because they see in having Emefiele in their custody an opportunity to make money, why would they disgrace themselves publicly the way they did? Why? So that's less people should look back and ask that question. Why were they fighting one another over Emefiele? It has to do with corruption, an opportunity to make money. So you can see what has happened with BOBRISKY. Even when he came out of the so-called prison, we saw him doing extravagant photo shoots and all that. A man who should have been sober. He was doing extravagant photo shoot, one at beachside and all that. He had everything that people who are not in prison didn't have. Shame on those officials of National Service. I used to think that there are some government offices and agencies where the best and the cleanest of all of us should work. But I'm worried that corruption has so permeated all phases of our national life that it is difficult to point to one agency that is not already bogged down by corruption. Focus has been so much on the correctional service, but we must focus on the EFCC. I'm happy that the House of Reps and the NBA called for an independent investigation. There has to be an independent investigation. It shouldn't be the chairman of EFCC telling us that he's going to investigate, that he's going to make sure that no person involved in this gets away with it. No, thank you, sir. We need an independent body to investigate the role of the EFCC in this whole shameful affair. But this is extremely disgraceful and scandalous. So we need an independent body to assess, to look at what happened. If indeed, as BOBRISKY said, EFCC officials extorted 50 million from him so that they can drop his money laundering charge, because I was also surprised that the money laundering charge was not mentioned. But I noticed that the judge dismissed it. The judge could dismiss a charge if the prosecuting team says that they are no longer pursuing the matter. So this may have been what happened. Right. We need to get to the roots of this matter. That is the only way that we can ensure that this does not happen again.
That's right.
So let the EFCC chairman, the Comptroller General of Prisons, BOBRISKY, and VDM go before the House of Reps.
That's right.
They are our representatives. They have the power. They have the right to investigate them on this matter. If indeed he was given an apartment outside the prison walls, then Ibrahim, I'm really, really ashamed to be in Nigeria.
That's right.
I'm really, if indeed that was what happened.
Right. Let me take some comments and then ask my next question. Da Vinci says, thank you for telling the truth. Good men. Otherwise, more people will suffer inadvertently. Oluwasegun Akingbemi says, I just pray that the truth shall prevail in the course of investigation irrespective of those involved in this corruption act. This presumed action by the Correctional Center staff and the EFCC is a national disgrace to the Nigerian nation. Heads must roll. Nelson Adufe says, BKO, this has been in existence for a longer time, even before the existence of Idris. This matter has exposed a lot of atrocities, though this might not be 100% true, that occur amongst these institutions. Mitsun Songa says, Babajide, please, that man you want to start praising is constructively manipulative and not fighting for the ordinary people. Just stay objective as you've always been. And Victor Patrick says, let's be sincere with ourselves. So far, so good. The guy VDM is doing well. Before anyone condemns him on this chat thread, ask yourself, what have you done for your own neighbors or neighborhood? But then, if you look at this issue of VDM, the daughter of Mr. Falano, Falakemi, has vehemently denied bribery and corruption allegations involving her father and her brother, Fowles, linked to Bobrisky's reported prison sentence. And then she went ahead to give VDM 24 hours to retract his extremely defamatory statements or risk legal action. But VDM claimed he didn't defame the Falanos. I'm not sure that can pass as an apology, BKO.
No. What he did is not an apology, and VDM needs to read up stuff about the libel law, because the way he was speaking, I knew that he was very ignorant of what the law says.
Yeah.
For example, you don't have to mention a man's name. You don't have to mention a man's name. Even by your description, you could be accused of libel. Because it's possible to describe someone in graphic manner, and everyone will know whom you are referring to. Again, if somebody gives you a clip, and in that clip, the person is defamed, and you use your platform to publish that material, you are as you are as liable to be sued as the person who was speaking in that audio clip. So that is it. If the person being defamed is dead, if the person has died, then they cannot file charges. But at this point, if he insulted or appeared to insult pals or even Femi Falana, then they can pursue libel against him, because the libel law does not insulate you where you took a material from someone and you use your platform to give vent to that material. That is why newspapers get sued when they publish interviews that defame people. TV stations get sued when they when they air interviews that defame individuals. So he needs to know that, and I'm sure his lawyer would inform him accordingly, because I want to believe that his lawyer knows something about libel law, so they'll be able to inform him. I appreciate the role that he has played in letting us know that this thing has happened. Yes. Was given an audio clip with him on BOBRISKY. At the end of the day, you can see what VDM has done. VDM, when he got the clip, the first person he called was Seun Kuti, and Seun Kuti gave him advice to go ahead and upload the audio clip. So Seun Kuti was the first person that he called, and I can understand why. Even in his quarrel with IWJ, during which we called IWJ all kinds of names, Seun Kuti stood by him. So he must have seen in Seun Kuti a very trusted elder brother. So he decided to notify Seun Kuti and ask him what to do. Seun Kuti told him, go ahead and release it. So, but I understand why Fola Kemi, for example, was very angry because Nigerians came to the conclusion. Some are even saying, "Oh, no one Falz is gay and all that." No, why do people come to this kind of nasty conclusions? You know, and Falz has come out to say, "Look, Bobrisky asked me for money, and I told him that I could not give him that kind of money." Bobrisky was shopping for money all over the place. So yes, there was indeed conversation, you know, around that and around the possibility of pardon, which is that had done for people in the years, using his contact and using the instrumentality of the law to try and help people who are in such a situation. So I do not think that on the strength of the evidence of ground that the Falanos have done anything wrong. And if VDM will look at the matter again, I think that he needs to apologize to the family based on advice from his lawyer. So I'm not his lawyer. I will expect his lawyer to tell him, look, based on this, I think a mistake was made here. But simply declaring that he holds the father in high esteem because his father had been an activist all his life is not enough to wipe away the possibility of a libel suit.
But we also need to be sure, I don't know, just like you quizzed earlier, but let me read this comment before I take my question, and which will be the last question. Oluwa Shegun Okegbemi says, he cannot truly serve a prison term, come out of prison and go on a celebration for coming out of prison. It was an arrangement. God will bless that brother who exposed them. Adiri Henry says, Falz and his sister should not be angry with VDM because once upon a time, Falz made caricature of former President Buhari and Muhammadu Yakubu. Omotola Odedipe says, but Falz should take up Bobrisky based on what is said about the 10 million naira, the 15 million naira. Nelson says, ignorance isn't an excuse against the law. How else should VDM have released this matter that would be taken seriously and given such an attention? But VDM released the voice notes or use his platform is defamatory already. Anyway, we also need to be sure whether Bobrisky served his term in prison or he was granted the privilege to stay in a well-furnished apartment. And that's one point. And the other point which I wanted to react to very quickly is that what does this say about the EFCC as an agency vis-a-vis its stance against the anti-graft war?
There is no doubt that the EFCC itself has quite a number of corrupt individuals, people who are not fit to fight against corruption. Because if you are smelling like a sewage pit, how could you then parade yourself as clean? You are just as clean as a sewage pit. So you cannot parade yourself as clean. And I refer, and people can fact check me, the current EFCC chairman, shortly after he got into office, complained that there were bad eggs in the EFCC who were frustrating the prosecution of corrupt people. He said so. Please fact check me. So it's not as if he was becoming the chairman of an agency of government that he was not familiar with. He had worked there. He had worked there for years. So he knew the kind of people that he was coming to be their chairman. So if he admitted that there were so many black legs in the EFCC, and this has happened, he calls for thorough investigation. And that's why on Journalists Hangout, I said what we need is a thorough cleanup of the anti-corruption agency. We need an anti-corruption body that we can all be proud of, not one that would deliberately be bungling cases, especially when it is the politically exposed persons who have stolen so much money and have so much money to bribe at their disposal to bribe people, including those in the EFCC. So there is a need for a thorough, there's a need to beam the searchlight on our number one anti-corruption body, which is the EFCC. Once the EFCC is thoroughly cleaned up and the black legs are chased away, it will be on the right path to defeating the biggest scourge against the growth and development of our country, which is endemic corruption.
Interesting stuff. So many other comments to take, but because of our time, okay. Arwolo Adekunle says, to make the matter worse, VDM said that he's disappointed in the Falanos. And Nelson says again, Prince BKO, we need this program to always be 1 hour because it's really educating, informative, and contributory. Please use your good office to make this program 1 hour fully. I think Nelson and co have been advocating that this program be extended to 1 hour.
Okay. Okay. We'll speak with the backroom boys, Wasil, Mustafa, and the rest of them, and we'll take a decision maybe from next week.
All right. Okay, yes. And that's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide, Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses as always.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you, viewers. We love you. We love the fact that you contribute all the time to making this program better. We love your questions. We love your comments. And we need you to keep that going.
That's right. And thanks to you, to our audience, for keeping our company on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG. I'm also at Ibrahim_Shita. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.